So I was like, why don't I bike from like San Francisco to LA, which is like, I don't know, it's like 600 miles or something like that. Why don't I do that over a couple of days and just like bike down there and kind of like document the whole thing, vlog it, and like kind of tag him and all this stuff. So eventually he sees it and he's like, damn, this kid really wants the job, you know?
Check it out. This is an interesting format. I'm interviewing Jeremy for his podcast. Jeremy and I met the same way everyone else meets in this era, through the DMs. And we had a phone call and we had a fun conversation. And during the conversation, we realized we were in alignment for a lot of topics and discussions and values when it comes to the creator economy. And he started telling me a little bit about his podcast and then a little bit about his career and some of the jobs that he's had. And he's worked as Tom Bilyeu, social media manager. And currently he works so I'm like doing your whole intro for your own channel. But currently you work as Noah Kagan's YouTube producer, correct?
Correct. You got it
all right. So you gave me a little insight to those stories, and then you told me about the podcast that you also create on the side as a side passion. And I'm like, yo, man, I want to interview you for your channel because this story is so cool. So I cut you off and I said, listen, let's save some of this great content and have a conversation and go deep and talk about your experience working with Tom and working with Noah. So I'm going to read the description for anyone that's new to this, to your Backstage Careers podcast.
Okay, let's do it.
Got this from your website, right? So Backstage Careers is a podcast where I interview the linchpins who are working behind the scenes and with some of the biggest entrepreneurs and creators out there. My goal, Jeremy's goal, with the podcast is to show you what it's like working with these influential people and how you can land a job working for someone you look up to. So you did exactly that with Tom and with Noah. So let's go to the beginning.
Okay.
Before you met Tom, where's your head at? And where are you?
Okay, so I was in college. So I'm originally from France. Moved to Silicon Valley when I was 19 because I wanted to work. I was really interested in tech and entrepreneurship. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I just kept hearing people mentioning like San Francisco, Silicon Valley. And it seemed like every new thing came out of that place, right? And so I was like, I got to get some part of this action, right?
So I'm going to cut you off there. What was it like making that leap? I mean, some people, they drive 2 hours, it's the college is in their backyard, but you flew across the world to be in the center of the action. What was it like making that first initial leap?
Yeah, so just for some context, my mom is American, and so I'm half American. I have like this double citizenship.
Oh, so you grew up. Where did you live though before you moved to San Fran?
So I grew up in France, in the northeast of France, like a little small wine growing region, and every summer we would come to the States as kids. So we have family in Michigan, Vegas, and some in Southern California.
Okay, so you've been around more than I have.
No, it was, and I think that those trips as kids was like one of the biggest reason I wanted to move as well. It's kind of like, like I've been reading Tony Robbins like not too long ago. So it's like you have this like pleasure and pain, and like whatever brings you pleasure, you like it kind of like imprints on your brain, right? And you want to do more of that. Like whatever harms you, whatever hurts you, you just like move away. You move away from that, right? And so I think that like the trips as kids, me, my brother, my family, every summer, like they were so like the emotion was so high. It was just like all the good American stuff, like the fast foods, like California, the beaches, the road trips, and just like the people were just so nice out, like whenever we went, and we just had a blast. And I think that just like always made me feel like an American, even though I was living in France, and just like I was always like, one day I'm gonna live in the States.
Amazing. So you're in San Fran, you make the leap.
Yeah. So I was actually in college in Barcelona, and I dropped out because I like I think that path was leading me down like kind of like an accounting, banking, finance, classic like business route, And I really wanted to like kind of get my bearings like with entrepreneurship, right? So I was like, I'm gonna work for a startup. I worked like a graveyard shift. I can't move back to France with my parents for a couple of months. Just like worked in like a refrigerated warehouse, like make enough money to basically buy a plane ticket. Plus, I had like $500 in the bank account, and I get that one way ticket. Was doing some couch surfing, just because on a budget, right? And that's how I met, believe it or not, the startup I ended up working with through couchsurfing.
Okay, so you're in San Fran, and did you already commit to going to college then, or was that after you got there?
So there was this path I was interested in, which was like it was kind of like a like insurance policy going to college still, and so what the path I had figured out before moving was like I was never in favor of like paying a lot for college. I was like, it's just not worth it for me to get in debt for college, And I was like, the only way I would do it is if it's like pretty much if I can pay for it, if I can graduate debt free. And so this path that I found out about, that if I went to community college first 2 years, I could transfer into like a reputable school, which I thought could be interesting and valuable. And also in that process, I could establish residency in California, which would allow me to get like a really good like financial aid and basically like graduate debt free. And that's what happened. Like during 2 years, I was going to community college. I was like working full time, like during the day at the startup, kind of getting like my marketing bearings, just like learning on the go, getting customers for the company. And then in the evening, I would take night classes, which was also the perfect balance for me because like it allowed, like I'm kind of like ADD. And so like just sitting in class all day is just like not for me. That's kind of why I dropped out the first time. And so like being able to balance both like work and then like study is like more of like a intellectual pursuit in the evening, was like, it was the perfect balance.
Okay, so you're in school. Well, at what part of your college career did you come across Tom Bilyeu, and how do you even start with that? He's someone that is, I imagine he's hard to get in front of. So let's go to the beginning of that story.
Yeah. So I actually didn't know Tom at all until one day. I think it was my junior year of college. I was already at UC Berkeley. There was this conference going on in Oakland by this company, The Hustle, which some of you might know from their newsletter. But they started off as a events company where they would just like reach out to some of like the most inspiring like founders out there and like bring them all in this event to share kind of like their lessons around business. And it's kind of like I want to describe it as like a entrepreneur conference, right? Where it's like everyone that wants to really start a company, you go there to like kind of get inspired. And he was one of the speakers. And again, before he stepped out on stage, like no clue who he was. And I sat through his speech, which was like a story, basically him sharing his story of how he's the founder of Quest Nutrition, and so, but he has like a very rags to riches story, right? Where he was, I mean, he just grew up like a regular kid, that kind of had his own struggles with like obesity and just like working, like kind of finding the motivation to get himself to work, kind of stuck in dead end jobs, right? And like he shared his story of like how he transformed from this guy to someone that started $1 billion company, right? And just like legendary entrepreneur. And I was so inspired by it. And if you hear him speak, you just know that he can get a whole room to feel like chills from like what's possible with, what's possible to achieve, right? Like for anyone,
I totally agree with you. The first time I ever saw him, it was on like a random Instagram clip that came across my timeline, and I got chills from watching that. It's a beautiful thing, man. So you're in there, you're seeing this person for the first time, and you say, does it click in your head? I need to be around that person.
Yeah. So I literally, during the speech, I decided like I'm going to work for this guy. Because I think what I told you last time, like he himself in his story, he basically, one of the pivotal moments is like he decided, like, oh, like two things I want in my life. I want a 6-pack ab and I want to be rich, you know? And he, at some point in his journey, he comes across these two entrepreneurs that are, I mean, they're ripped, you know, they're just like freaking ripped and they're rich because, I mean, they have like a successful business. And he's like, I'm going to go work for them and like whatever it takes, whatever it costs, I'm going to show them that, I mean, I'm basically going to learn everything from them and like surround yourself with the 5 people like you I mean, you're the average of the 5 people you're around,
people,
like
yep.
according to that law, like if I spend enough time around them, eventually I'll be like them, right? That was kind of his thing. And that worked out for him. And so he mentions that in his speech, and like, I mean, it probably like struck something with me. It was like, hey, like I can do this with this guy, you know, like I mean, this guy, this guy was just an average guy, and like he has this exceptional transformation story, and he had just exited Quest, and he was starting this new company, Impact Theory, which is a media company, whose mission is to just give everyone. Basically spread the mission of like spread the word that anyone can develop an empowering mindset, a growth mindset, and that's through like through all the media they're putting out, right? Through social media, through his interviews, courses, and eventually through movies. They're basically building a movie studio. But anyway, so he was just starting this company. And it's like he maybe had 5 employees at the time. And I was like, wait a second, there's this guy who started a $1 billion company that's starting from scratch. Like he's more accessible than he's ever been. And he probably needs help. And he himself preaches like his biggest advice was like, spend 90, like find the person that's living your ideal life and go spend 90 days, like go pitch them to work for free for 90 days in exchange for skill and connection. And I can basically play his playbook on him, you know? And so I was like, that day I decided I'm going to go work for him.
My man.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So what's the first action step you take towards making that a reality?
Yeah. So the next 2 weeks, that's all I had on my mind, and I was just brainstorming like how can I get his attention. And so there's 2 ways I came up with. The first one is kind of ridiculous. I can still share it, but
yeah. Let's do it in case someone wants to use it today.
But yeah, so I was living in the Bay Area in North California at the time, and their headquarters was in Beverly Hills in LA. And so I was like, Tom is a very like, he's kind of like he likes the hard work, you know. He's like he likes people that can show him that they can work hard. He likes the grind, you know, and like the whole process. And so I was like, why don't I bike from like San Francisco to LA, which is like, I don't know, it's like 600 miles or something like that. Like to give you an example, like in a car trip, it's like, I think it's like 6 to 10 hours, right? And I was like, why don't I do that over a couple of days and just like bike down there and kind of like document the whole thing, vlog it, and like kind of tag him and all this stuff. So eventually he sees it and he's like, damn, this kid really wants the job, you know? I did like a little A/B test of that like one weekend where I took my bike, and I had never done like any type of long distance biking. And I did like a 4-hour bike ride for the first time, and literally I could not walk or sit or do anything for the following week. And so I was like, probably not the best idea, you know?
I love that you practiced it. Most people wouldn't go to the length to test it, even think about it. But you're like, I'm going to test this. I'm going to see how this plays out. Now, when you're doing this, what year is that? What year?
So I think that was 2017 still. So that was in my junior year. It was like
2017.
Yeah.
And then how long after seeing him at the conference did you test the bike scenario out?
That was like the next weekend.
Oh, like right away. You're like, I'm hitting the ground. All right, cool. So you realize, so did you ended up not going that route? You decided something a little less strenuous?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm kind of like, I wish I had gone through for it because just like it would have made for such a cool story. But around the same time, I was like, what if I try this other thing, which is, what if I quickly I was just brainstorming a bunch of ideas, and one of them was, what if I look up, what if I buy this website, I want to work for impacttheory.com, and I turn it into like the ultimate like video sales letter, like resume, to pitch myself to them, right? In like a kind of like a creative way.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. People make sales pages all the time for their product, and they want to get this clear, defined message of what this potential value could be for them to their customers. And in your mind, like there's one person that's your core demographic, and it's Tom. And you need to get this message across because you know that he's busy. You know that when you do get his attention, it's got to be something that stands out. Seth Godin talks about when I don't know if you ever heard this story from Seth, but I guess when he was applying to a bunch of like design marketing firms or something, I forget what he was applying to. But he said at that time, everyone would send in their portfolios or their like application in like a manila folder. And it was the same manila folder, like it was just like the common one, right? He created one that was a half an inch bigger than all the other ones. So whenever it was on people's desk, like, the stack of manila folders, his would be the one that was always popping out.
I love that.
And you need that little bit. And like your example is like the digital age of that half an inch, like standing out technique.
Yeah, and it's a common pattern I see like from all the guests on the podcast. It's just like they all have, and it's funny because they're all different, which is like if you listen to all of these episodes, like they all have like a different thing of like how they stood out. Like last week I was interviewing this guy who, I don't know if you know consulting.com. It's like a big online business course. But he basically, to get his first job, he retargeted his job was like as a director of marketing. He retargeted like one person on Facebook. So like all they saw was like his ads of like, I want to work for you. Like it's stuff like that.
You can do that. You can send an ad.
I don't think you can do it anymore. At the time you could. It's like a custom, like you upload their email and like, I mean, Facebook has all your data, right? And so like they can retarget you again and again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Like nowadays, someone could make an Instagram page where it's just like, I want to work with such and such, and like each thing is just like an example of like the value that they could bring to that person.
No, exactly. There's so many ways, man. And
there's so many ways. You brought up some of the other podcast guests, and one consistent thing that I saw, and everyone's route was different. Everyone's like final goal was different, but the one thing I saw, everyone had something else in mind at the beginning. Everyone was like, I went to school for engineering, or like, I wanted to go for this. And then like this whole other opportunity presented themselves. Amanda mentioned something like that. And then the gentleman that, I forget his first name.
Josh.
The work for, yeah. He said that he went to school for totally something different. And then this other opportunity, and this happened with you too. Like you didn't really know, but just from following your curiosities, just from like kind of testing your waters, putting your toes in certain areas, you were like, oh, this is something that's calling me.
Yeah. And it's another thing about like going to work for like these people that you're following on social media that you look up to is like you don't, like a cool thing is like you don't exactly need to know like what you want to do, but like being in that environment is going to expose you to like so many different like trades and skills, and like you can kind of like figure out your lane as you're going, you can just like you know that you're excited about like what the person is working on, and like by joining their team you contribute to a mission that you believe in yourself. And but in that process, you like can figure out like, oh, like where do I fit into this world? Like what value can I add,
Yeah, it's like you don't know exactly what's possible yet, but like once you get exposed to their worlds, like their fish tank, their way of seeing things, you start to have all these ideas like, oh, this is what's possible if I apply myself.
Yeah.
So where are we at with this? We are you just sent out yeah, so what do you do with the sales page? Like how do you still got to get it in front of him.
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, the sales page is basically a video recorded of myself, where it's like pitching myself directly to him and the team. And then the rest of the website was like just my experience, and then like every opportunity I saw where I could add value. So it was like social media samples, like video clips. It was like lead magnets, like to collect emails and stuff, and like everything I saw that I could add value, like designs for t-shirts for their merch, I just like put everything up on the website, and every value prop was like a different page.
And what do you do with it now? You start emailing, start DMing?
Yeah, so I basically I DM'd it to like everyone that worked there, like on all social media. Like I basically harassed them. And well, there's a fine line, but I basically just like sent it to everyone that was working there. And the funny thing is, I ended up getting a response from the general like Connect inbox, which is on their website. And the email was, "Hey, the team and Tom saw the website. We freaking love it. Why don't you come out for an interview for an internship? When are you free?" And I was like, yeah, I can fly out tomorrow, right? So I think it was on Wednesday, and so the following day was like a Thursday, and I was like, I just flew out on a Thursday morning. I was like a marketing class or something like that. I was skipping.
You canceled your marketing class to go get a marketing job.
Exactly.
I love it. That's something too they would never teach in that marketing class. But you doing that, you having that bias towards action to do that thing is what it takes though. Like that's what allows people to stand out and get these really fun, cool opportunities. How did you get people's addresses? How did you get Tom Bilyeu's team's contacts?
So LinkedIn is a really good tool. So basically, like, I don't know at the time, but like whoever has impact theory, you just search like impact theory, and like whoever comes up, you just reach out to them. So you can reach out to them directly on LinkedIn. Then you look them up on Instagram. You can also you can guess emails, which is like, there's this tool you can use, hunter.io, which is really good. Basically,
it's an incredible tool.
Oh, you use that too? Hell
yeah.
What I do is I look up I'll look up like impact theory email format, and the first thing that usually comes up is this website Rocket Reach. I don't know if we're getting too technical, but
let's do it.
So Rocket Reach, it's normally a paying website, but when you look in Google, like company name and then email format, like they're usually like the first link that comes up, and they'll give you like a % chance of like, here's like the different email formats this company uses. And it works better for bigger companies, but it will usually be like first name, it would be like first name dot last name at company.com, the first name letter plus last name at, it will give you the email format, which you can kind of emulate. And then you use hunter.io to verify that the email actually goes through. So you don't actually send like 10 emails to so you don't get booted from their email system, So hunter.io verifies it for you, and then you have the email. It's super simple, man. You can reach anyone in the world.
Simple. You can. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. If you, and here's the thing, the people that you're reaching out to, if you have a genuine interest in adding value to their world, and you understand presentation and how to communicate, it's okay. The problem is, people might, just a disclaimer to anyone that is like understanding this and seeing this and say, oh, I want to reach out to so and so. Keep in mind that they're getting a lot of people that are reaching out to them, and it still takes a bit of tactfulness and understanding where they're at, seeing where their perspective pie is to get across to them. So you send it out to them, and they just the general email responds to you.
Yeah,
it didn't even matter. Yeah. It didn't even matter. Didn't even matter. We talked all about like how to get their emails, but the one that was like on their website is the one that responded to you.
So that's the thing that you nailed. you can pretty much reach, like, if you want, you can get Elon Musk or whoever is the busiest person in the world to see your message. The problem is not for you to get in touch with them. The problem is for you to catch their attention. And that's what the website, that's why I think I got a response back from the general inbox, right? It was just like very casual. I think if you need that piece, it's kind of in marketing, you call it the lead magnet. You need that thing that's going to be like, oh, like this guy is impressive, let's bring him on. And then you can reach anyone, So it's like the question is like, how do you capture someone's attention, and like how do you make it worth their while to give you like a couple minutes to make your pitch,
So you got their attention. They emailed you. They said, when can you meet us? You book a flight. You fly out there. You go straight to Tom Bilyeu's studio? Bunker? Where is he? I don't have to say where he is, but like, what, you land, you go right there. Do you do any prepping? Like, are you nervous? What's going on? What's going on in your head?
Yeah, I was super nervous, but they sent me this address. They sent me this address, and so I pull up. I took an Uber, like, show me the address, and like, I don't know if I knew this at the time, but they basically work out of Tom's house, which is, it's a nice house,
Yeah.
And yeah, so I show up to this house, and it's like Uber drops me off. The door to his house is like, it's like 3 times my height, it's like ginormous, and so I'm already nervous as hell. Like, Tom opens the door. He's like, hey, what's up? And his dog is like barking in the background, it's like, he's like, come in, walk into his house. And in the living room, they were like, all the people that were working there at the time, which was like maybe like 10 people, were working around his living room table. And so I come in and like sit down, and straight away it's basically like an interview in front of like the whole Impacted crew at the time. And Tom starts like firing questions. He's like, so
wait. So are you both still standing up? Does he like you two like sit in front of everyone, and like, are they purposely all there?
No.
Like, is that something that he wanted everyone to kind of hear the conversation? What's the setup? I need to know.
So that's how, it was a small team at the time. That's just how, that was the setup. They were just all working around the table. Yeah. And, I guess he likes to get the team's input, right? It's like he wanted the whole team's input, so he just did it. Yeah. Like, we didn't go to another room, we just did it there in front of everyone, right? Yep. And like, he started like firing questions, and he's very like, for interviews, he's very good, like, because he's interviewed like thousands of people, like for Quest Nutrition. It's like he's an expert, he's a master pretty much at interviewing. And like, what he tries to do is like tries to dig into your soul to figure out like, no, seriously, like that's how he would describe it. He like tries to dig into your soul to figure out like who are you at our core, and so like he has a very good understanding of like just human nature, and so he's like tries to, I think, put you off balance to like really understand you and like what drives you and all that stuff.
Now I don't know Tom personally. I'm a big fan. I watch a lot of his content. I feel like he's probably looking at you like square in your eyes, and he's like examining all your mannerisms. Like, are your shoulders hunched? Are you addressing the room? Is that what it's like?
Yeah, he's an intimidating guy.
yeah, in like in a great way.
Yeah,
I would be like, if someone did that to me, I'd be like, all right, this guy's really pays attention. He's very curious about this interaction right now. This is the only thing he's locked in, and I appreciate that. So you're standing in front of him, and what are some of the? Do you remember any of the questions? Or is it a blur?
I don't remember any specific questions. I think he wanted to figure out what I really wanted, And the funny thing is, like, at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted. And so I think I did an okay job, like, kind of like, I don't want to say bullshitting my way through, but like, kind of like, I kind of knew what I wanted. Like, I knew I wanted to impact. It was kind of like the cliche stuff of like, I want to impact people. I want to have an impact. I want to, I want to have an impact on the world. And I want to do work that matters, you know, but it's like very cliche. It's like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, I just knew that it was the right path.
So you get the full interview. What was it? 10 minutes, an hour?
I think it lasted like 30 minutes to an hour. It actually lasted pretty long, and just like chatting around with like the employees were asking me questions, and we were just like exchanging, you know.
Yeah. And what was the exact like position? It was.
This was a probably like a social, like a marketing internship. I think that's what it was.
So not paid.
No, unpaid, yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So what happens?
So what happens is Tom at the time is like, he was like, from my standpoint, I think I love the hustle. Like, I think you'd be a great addition to the team. But today, like our marketing director today, he's not here today. And so let me connect you guys, and you guys can do like another like additional interview. And then, I mean, we'll discuss the details. And so, what was happening at the time, I had like a brief conversation with the marketing director at the time, but what was happening in the background, which I didn't know, is that the marketing director was like on his way out. I think he was moving to NorCal, actually. And so I basically got an email back like, sorry, we'll be unable to offer you an internship position at this time. The thing is, I didn't know that everything that was going on in the background. For me, I was like, oh, like I got rejected. I basically didn't get the job, which, I mean, yeah, I didn't get the job. I didn't get the internship, but I was just crushed because I was like, this is over, you know, like at the time I was like, this is
all that work.
And it's like, I really did not see myself working anywhere else after like getting so excited about this company. I was like, I was meant for this company, you know, I was meant to work there. And like, I don't want to, at the time I was sort of interested in tech, you know, but I was like, after all of this, I'm not interested in this, like at the same degree, you know, it would just be a job versus here. It's like, this is like different, you know? And there was a couple of days where I was like, yeah, almost like something like someone died, you know. I was like, okay,
you're just
like
upset.
grief,
like,
you know.
yeah, just kind of like sunk.
Yeah,
just like I feel kind of deflated. I don't know like what direction next to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what was the next action?
Yeah, and then I came to a realization like, hey, like, since you really want this job, like, why don't you keep trying? You know, like it's kind of like the stupid thing of like just like persevering in something. You know, it's like I was like, if I
burn the boats,
I was like,
that's that. Yeah.
If I keep trying and I keep trying to add value, like unless there's a fine line between like being kind of like annoying, you know, and like
very fine,
and keeping like adding value like without like being annoying. And so I was like, if I keep just like trying to add value, but like just not being pushy, not being too pushy either, you know, and just like very sleekly like adding value, and again, like at some point they have to hire me, you know. And so that's kind of the strategy I had. And this was like an entire year where I was trying to establish rapport with like people that were working there. So other interns that were working there, for example, and I was trying to establish a connection with people that were on the inside as well, that weren't Tom, because obviously I was trying to DM Tom because he had answered my DM initially, you know, but it's like obviously he's too busy, you know, he's running a company, and so I got in touch with a couple of the people. One guy specifically, Will, who still works there, and
what does Will do?
He does marketing. He's kind of like a marketing generalist where he does everything. Right now he's focused on
make stuff happen.
Yeah, he's the hustler.
What does he work? What does he work on now?
Right now he's focused on Impact Theory University and kind of getting customers for Impact Theory University. Yeah. So I was just talking, I was communicating with him, kind of like just curious, like asking what he was working on, and eventually build this rapport. And I was like, hey, here are some social assets. I kept like basically sending him like free samples that he could use and trying to help him in his job. And I think at some point, I was like, oh, can we hop on the call? Like, I'd love to hear like what what areas like Impact Theory really needs help with that I could, like, I have a lot of free time at the time since I'm in college. Like, I'd love to like help you guys with anything, you know. And I think he hopped on a call, and like it kind of like went like that for like a couple of months. And at some point, he was like, "Hey, I think there's a business development internship that's opening up. Like, would you be interested?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" Like, of course, you know. And yeah, and what's funny is around this time, like I was always like had an eye on their job board, you know, and so I was like, whenever there was a job I would like that I was like remotely qualified for, I would like apply. And so at the same time, I was interviewing for this social media manager position, and I made it to the final interview, which with the co-founder, Lisa's wife.
So you applied to 2 positions?
Yeah. So I think I had started the process of applying for this social media position.
Yeah.
And then he was like in the process, he was like, "Oh, by the way, we have an internship." I was like, "Oh, okay, let's do it," you know? And I made it to the final round of interviews for the social media position, which was with Tom's wife, who's the co-founder of the company as well. And she right away like realized I was totally underqualified for the position. But she was like, "Hey, but like, I think we have this internship position opening up. I could maybe like put in a good word for you." And I was like, "Oh, I actually have an interview with like who the director of BD, Sean, at the time, like in like an hour," something like that. And she was like, "Just because of that, like you should get the internship position."
So did she give it to you on the spot?
No. She was like, "I'll put in a good word. Yeah, because like you got the hustle."
Was this video interviews or were these in person?
Skype. This was all Skype. Yeah.
Okay. That's wild. So you had 2 interviews in the same day for different things.
I was nervous at first because I was like, I feel like this appeal, because like and they're kind of different, right?
Needy.
Like there's
does this appeal? Yeah.
Not only that, but it was like one was for social media and the other one was for business development.
So
you know,
what do you do?
And so it's kind of like you're pitching yourself as like a perfect fit for each position, you know. So I was like, it's kind of weird, you know. But
one of them's got to be wrong. No, that I love that so much. I love that so much. Did she know when she was interviewing you that you already came in for another interview? Was that transparent in those interviews, or did they not even remember or know?
So she didn't remember right away, but then I told her, and she was around the table like when I was there, and because she didn't recognize me right away, and then she recognized that was me, and she was like, "Oh shit, like we got to get you in." Yeah.
So you end up, she puts in the recommendation, and how do you find out you got the job?
Yeah. So I did the Skype interview with Sean, director of BD at the time. And it went well. And basically I got an email from him a couple days later, like, "Hey, we think you're the guy. Like, if you want it, the internship's yours, and you can start. Like, when can you start, basically?"
And I got so many questions. So where were you living at that time?
I was still in Berkeley.
Okay,
Yeah.
so did you end up working remotely?
No, so the timing for this just ended up being perfect because I was, this was probably beginning of 2018, which is when I was graduating. I graduated in May 2018. And this was probably around February that I was doing all these interviews. And so I was just like, "Hey, like I can join you guys. Like I think it was probably like in a month or two, you know, I can start in a month or two."
Yeah. Did you, oh my goodness. It's such a great story, man. There's so many parts in that story as you were telling it where you could have just threw in the towel. And I'll tell you why. Even in points that weren't clear obstructions. So even sitting and watching Tom, right, at the conference, a lot of people probably had the same idea. It would be fun to work for him. But then they put this self-limiting belief that I'll never be able to get in touch with them. So they didn't even pursue it, right? Then you went and you did you experimented with the bike technique, right? that failed, and people would have thrown the towel then. Like, there's no way to get his attention, right? So then you end up making the sales page, you get the interview, you show up to this house. Or even before that, I think a lot of people, and even me, if there was like a scheduling conflict of like an opportunity, that would take, because the opportunity brings me out of my comfort zone, like an interview with Tom Bilyeu, right? I would probably make up an excuse like, I'm too busy. I got school. It just won't, the timing doesn't work out. Like a lot of people would have been like, oh, I'm sorry, I got school. And it just wouldn't have happened. But you went, you showed up, you made the interview happen. Then they said you don't get the job. and people, there's like 1% of people that would like actually be like, all right, it's still my job, and just like having the confidence and the persistence to like, and when I say confidence, a lot of people are like, their egos are kind of hit, like, oh, they don't like me, but you didn't see it that way. You're like, okay, like maybe the timing's not right. Maybe maybe it was the wrong situation, and you just kept pushing and kept pushing, and then eventually you made it happen. And I think it comes from like something that you saw, like you believed in this future version of yourself that actually worked there, and there was nothing that was going to get in your way.
You know what it boils down to, I really think, is I was so excited by the opportunity. And it was like, it was literally the only thing I was that excited about at the time. And so it's like almost like it's almost like there's no discipline, or like it's not a discipline thing. It's like an excitement thing, where it's like, it's just like, and you're not even thinking, just like going for it. And so, I think
it's a great way of framing it.
When you find like an opportunity, and the opportunity, like I was saying, was just so right. It was like this guy, and I always wanted to start my own company. It was like this guy that started $1 billion company is like starting from scratch, and like there's an opportunity to like go learn and like kind of like apprentice under him, and it's like, it just felt too good to be true.
What was it like? What was it like working for Impact Theory and Tom Bilyeu?
Yeah, it was exciting, man. It's funny because like, I mean, it felt surreal the first couple weeks, and then you get used to anything, But just like having such like incredible people like coming, because like all the interviews are recorded in their house. They have their studio pretty much in the living room, and there was some amazing people that like just came every week.
Oh, that came to the studio. You probably that too, and I imagine the people that Tom are hiring too. They're all just hitters, just people that are like really pushing for more in their life. So you probably learn a lot from them, and you're truly becoming the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
100%.
Is your job at the beginning, does it change over time? Like it comes in as a paid or unpaid internship, and then does it develop into anything else?
Yeah, so it started as a business development internship. It was like a 90-day unpaid internship. Honestly, like there was no kind of like, there was definitely no promise of like kind of like a job after that, because like even though I mean, Tom is, relatively wealthy, from the company before, like what he's trying to do is he's trying to build a sustainable company, right? Like he's trying to build like a company that's sustainable, that he doesn't have to like keep investing cash into, right? And so he was always like, from the start, he was like, we can bring people in that can pretty much pay for their salary, right? And if that's not the case, like it just doesn't make sense for us to bring new people onto the team.
Explain, they can pay for their
So basically,
salary.
like they can generate the amount of revenue, like especially like if it's like in marketing or stuff like that, like
they can prove it that they can pay for their salary, like if they come in as an internship. And
and so like for business development, it was like I was getting podcast sponsorship for the podcast, and it's kind of like, it's very like, you can write it down on a sheet of paper, like I got
this is the outcome.
I got a sponsorship deal that's worth like $20,000 over like 6 months, like if I get like 4 or 5 of those, I can basically pay for my salary and more, And I think what he was saying is like, we can only bring on people that can pay for their salary like 2x, because like it's one thing to pay for your salary, but then like you have to like, there's a like, you have to contribute on top of that, And so like
that's a great way of thinking.
It's a business way of thinking, yeah. And
it gives you as the employee like a clear measuring stick of like what direction to go
Oh, yeah.
to, where it's not just like, everyone's just kind of floating. It's like nice, just like make sure you're posting on social media. Like there's very clear metrics that almost manage the direction that you need to go. Did you get sponsorships? Was that part of your role?
Yeah, so as an intern, which I was like, dude, because like I was this introverted kind of like college kid, like I'm coming in and I was
Like,
impressed at like how much responsibility they kind of gave me up front, right? But, like the business development, super cool guy, Sean. The business development. Shout out Sean. He's a homie. I'm actually going to see him in a couple months when I'm in Texas. Yeah. He was basically like, hey, yeah, like go on and like do like however you want, just like go and reach out to these companies, like identify these companies. And obviously we sat down like the first day, and he just like gave me a lowdown. And then he was just like, yeah, just go and get us some deals,
So are you just finding their emails the same way that you found Tom's team's emails?
Pretty much, yeah. And so what happened is like I would listen to other podcasts in a similar space and like write down like all the podcast sponsorship, like all the companies that were sponsoring other shows, and then I would reverse. And this is where the LinkedIn skills come in, like kind of the stalking skills. I was like figuring out like everyone that worked in business development or like kind of like influencer marketing at that company through LinkedIn, and then I would guess those people's emails. And I set up a system for them where it was like mail merge. I don't know if you see what that is, but basically you can send the same email kind of customized with like their name and like a couple of things to like 5 to 10 people at their company. So I'd like just send these out to a bunch of companies and yeah, so I set those systems up and was reaching out, and eventually I landed a couple sponsorships during I think I landed one during the first month with this company Wink. And
so you do that. Do you do that for like the 90 days, and then what happens? Is that like you're closing these deals, you're getting sponsorships? What happens after the 90 days?
Yeah, so actually, within that 90-day period, there was kind of some, so the job I was applying for that I didn't get, that I was underqualified for, like the social media manager position. Mm-hmm. They were still looking for someone, and they hadn't filled that position. What was happening is at the time they were working with VaynerMedia, to like the agency to manage all of Tom's social media, and they were trying to bring that role internally,
in-house. Yep.
And so the contract with Vayner was ending, and they still hadn't found anyone, and so I kind of sensed the opportunity. And I think I had expressed, obviously through me applying to the social media position, me sending a bunch of samples throughout like my whole application, I had kind of expressed that like that's kind of something I was interested in. And when that basically, as they were coming to the end of this contract, they basically didn't have anyone, and I was there, and I was interested, and so they were like, hey, like. The funny thing is they didn't even hesitate about it. They were just like, hey, like, you want to try this? And I was like, heck yeah, I do, And this was still during like my 90-day, like the unpaid internship. So I gave
That's so wild.
It's great. Like I don't understand like why they gave it to me, but that's kind of tells you the culture at Impact Theory. It's just like,
yeah, they trusted you and your intentions, and like I think there's so much to just being aligned with their mission. Mm-hmm. Where if they hire talent that is aligned with their mission, they're probably they're pretty confident that, hey, let's. At least we trust him, So if he breaks something, we can figure it out. So you took on that role, and your job changes immediately. And now is that paid?
So at first I was still like in this unpaid internship, and I think like 2 months into my internship, they're just like, you're crushing it with this stuff. Like you're basically growing the accounts faster than like Vayner was. And so, like, let's bring you on.
Ah, dang.
let's bring you on full time. Like, they basically sat me down, like Tom and Lisa. I had a meeting with them, and they were like, "Hey, like, like we love what you're doing. Do you want to come full time? And I was like, yes.
Did they tell you? Did they tell you how much? We're not going to talk about figures, but they just say like, "This is the price. Like, this is how much we'll give you," and you're like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, I was like, I'll keep working for free, guys. But yeah, they basically offered a salary, and I was very happy with it,
they probably saw evidence that you were able to pay for your salary through your output. At
So
the
yeah,
company.
so that's a perfect example. Is like basically they were paying VaynerMedia something like $15,000 per month to manage Tom's account, And so like I was like a fraction of that price, And so like automatically I kind of like paid for my own salary because I was like replacing the agency,
Yep. So you take on that role, and when is this now? Is this like 2018?
Still 2018, yeah. I think it was like summer of 2018, yeah.
Okay. So you just start going ham. You go full head of steam. I imagine doing that is working. You're working around the clock, and you're managing the social accounts. Is it Tom's? Is it Impact Theory? Is it YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, like everything?
So it was all of Tom's accounts, social media accounts that were not YouTube. So YouTube was kind of like the show, all the interview and stuff. There's a whole team behind that. But I took on like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I was doing that for Tom, and then I was doing that for Impact Theory. And then later I started managing as well. Like we kind of got into the whole comic book industry, which is like another story. But like I started managing and growing that smaller comic account as well.
Now, as you're working with this beast, right? I think a lot of people would work with someone like Tom and be like, I've changed as a person. It's just like being around, seeing how he approaches the world. How did you change as you approached your work as a person, whatever, from the day that you started working with them to the day that you stopped working with them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that like one thing that Tom is really good at is like he believes in you more than you believe in yourself, So he kind of sees what you can. He sees your potential, and that's why he's so good. I mean, that's why so many people kind of like are inspired by him. Is like he's like he has gone through his own hero's journey, right? And like he believes to the core of his being that like anyone can accomplish anything, and like almost to like a crazy, like almost like upsetting like in like to an upsetting level where like some people are like, dude, but like this is just not realistic. And like, he has that like he's like, you can do whatever you want. And like being around someone that believes that to the core of their being, like he applied that mentality to his employees, right? And so he would constantly like push us to do more, right? Like he would set goals for us that like we're I personally that I felt were like crazy. And like then he would be like, dude, you can fucking do it. Don't ask like what would they take, and then just like ask, are you willing to pay the price, And if you're not, then
what would it take?
That's his big thing. Like whenever you have like a big goal, that almost feels impossible. Break it down to like a science. Like what would it take? If I had all the resources in the world, if I had all the time in the world, like break it down to like a physics problem. Like what would it take to accomplish this outcome? And then you have to ask yourself, like, first, like, do I have these resources? Can I get these resources? And am I willing to put in the effort and like the price that it costs to kind of accomplish this outcome, And then if you're not, if the answer is no, then like basically aim lower, and like like find a goal that you are willing to pay the price for, And that's one of the biggest things I got from it. It's like so powerful.
I got the chills you just talking about that. That belief. I've been around that. I've seen coaches. I've seen people I've worked with, collaborators. There's just something where they see this this potential, right? And just knowing that they see it, it's contagious.
Yeah.
So that's what he did for you. I imagine for a lot of the team members.
100%. Yeah. Everyone that's worked there. And he kind of identifies the people that are super hungry, and then he, like you said, like he channels that hunger, and kind of like shows you that you can do more than you think you can,
That's an amazing quality to have. Now, you've worked for, how long did you end up working with him?
It was close to 2 years.
Close to 2 years. And ultimately, you've currently switched gears a little bit. What interested you in kind of like starting a new direction?
Yeah. So at the time, I was interested in traveling more. Kind of. So there's a couple things, but like one, I really like working from home, which for a lot of people is like super weird. Like this quarantine, I've loved it. Just because I'm super introverted. When I work, I like to just be in the zone. Like no distractions around. And so like even when I was at Impact Theory, like at first, like there was some days where you could I'd just work from home. It was kind of like a little flexible. Towards the end, Tom was kind of pushing for like, hey, like because Tom is big on like to build
in person.
To build a strong company culture. You need everyone needs to be in person, which is a fair belief. Like I feel we can talk about like kind of like how our team looks like with Noah now. Like we have a good culture, but like that's Tom's belief as far as like building a strong team. And so towards the end, he was like, yeah, we want everyone. And this was before pre-COVID. Like we want everyone in the team all the time, which is totally fair. And I also wanted to do a little more traveling. Like my family is in France, so I want to kind of like visit them from time to time and stuff. And so I was looking
personal projects and kind of have time to do some of your own personal.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Like the culture at Impact Theory is like it's like all in, and so I know some people, like I've interviewed some people on the podcast actually that do balance freaking beasts. I don't know how to do it, but that have balanced like personal projects as well. But I personally didn't feel like I could balance like a personal project on the side. It was kind of like an all in, like kind of like 12, 14 hours a day working on the accounts and stuff. And so I also wanted more space to kind of explore my own projects, such as this podcast that I'm doing now.
Very, very meta. So did you communicated all that with Tom and he was like, awesome, go do your thing? Like, how was the conversation? Was it smooth or are you guys still homies?
Yeah. So Tom is very open. Like that's something I admire from like just his leadership style, where it's like, I don't know if you've read Principles by Ray Dalio, but like he basically built the company culture.
Radical candor?
Yeah, that's it.
Is that the principle? Yeah.
He basically built the whole company culture at Impact Theory around that book, which is it's pretty wild to kind of have like a living, breathing organism of like directly from that book. But like you said, one of the things is radical candor, and he like really lives that. It's like to the point where like when I started, like you'll have like an intern like that was expressing to Tom in like a team meeting that Tom made him feel uncomfortable by something that he did. It was like that level of like the intern can like kind of like share that type of stuff with the leader, the CEO, Man,
and like that's so admirable.
Yeah. And then it's like during those we always had like during team meetings, we had like principals time, which is like 10 to 30 minutes at the end of each like team meeting, where it's like those things get discussed. Like anything that you have that's kind of bothering you, you bring it up and then you discuss it as a team, and like you basically find a solution to it,
That's so amazing. So you were like, hey Tom, I got to go explore some other situations.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't clear at the time whether I wanted to stay or not. I basically told him that I wasn't super fulfilled anymore in the role. I mean, the reason I was talking about Radical Candor is like I felt comfortable sharing that with him. Like I wasn't scared like, oh, he's gonna fire me because I'm expressing this. Like I didn't even know if I wanted to stay or not. And I basically seeked out his advice. I think I booked a breakfast. Like he did these things where you could like get breakfast with him from time to time. And so like I booked one of these and I just like kind of laid out like that I wasn't excited anymore. And he basically told me, yeah, like it feels like your goals and the company's goals like aren't aligned anymore, and that's totally cool, you know. And like we'll do everything to support you to kind of like move on to the next position.
So did you get a reference from him?
No, I did not.
But okay, so yeah, you have a new job now, right? Did you start applying to the new job?
Yeah, so like after that talk, I did a lot of thinking,
you started
right?
Poking around,
and I wasn't really sure what it would look like, but like I told you, like what I knew is like I wanted a little more free time to work on personal projects, and I wanted the flexibility to like work from home. That was like a big thing, work from home and work from anywhere, like kind of like that nomad lifestyle, you know. And so what I had in mind at the time was I have these skills from like managing Tom's account and also credibility, you know. Why don't I just start my own social media agency, you know? And so I was starting to reach out to people that I thought could be good clients, you know. And one person that I had been following forever, just because like when I started in market, like I always had an interest in marketing, you know. Like one blog I used to follow was Noah Kagan's blog. And the reason I reached out is I saw like in my mind, like I looked up to him as like this genius marketer, you know, and he had like a huge online presence as far as like old school kind of community building, right? Like email list, blog. But then I was looking at his like social pages and they really didn't look that, I mean, it didn't represent the image I had of him. And so I saw this kind of like this opportunity gap, right? And so I saw an opportunity to add value, right? And so I reached out with kind of like like a whole plan of like what I could do for him. And he responded, like we started texting. And what's funny is I think I sent that to him, and then he ended up coming on the show, and I got introduced through Tom. I think what happened is I worked for him for like 2 weeks for free, kind of as a trial, you know. I was like, let me just run all your stuff and like we'll see how it goes, you know. And I was still working at Impact 3 during this time. So it was like nights and weekends I was like working on his accounts.
Yeah, I'll tinker around. I'll help you where I can.
Yeah. And then I think as I was doing this, I see them post like a job application for basically what I was doing out, and I was like, "Hey, yo, I want the job," you know.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to make sure because during this time Noah was kind of starting to take. It was perfect timing because he was starting to take like social and like YouTube seriously, and so he just like wanted to find the best candidate possible, right? And so since I kind of started the process.
And when was this process? When was this?
This was summer of last year.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, eventually he brings me on the team.
It met the sort of lifestyle things that you were looking for. You said you wanted to work from home. You want to be able to be remote, and so there was like a couple of boxes that opportunity checked. Did you? And then you put in your 2 weeks, or you just wait, or said you'll work with them until they find someone else that can do the job?
That's a good question, because I think I gave a 6 weeks notice. Like I really want to leave in the best terms possible, right? So I was like, hey, like I'm gonna hire my replacement, you know, like I'll do like I think 6 weeks to like 2 months, you know, like I'll keep
hire him, train him, like on board.
I'll stay here. Yeah, basically I'll stay here for like up to like 2 months, and like I'll really I'll really help you guys just like hire the perfect fit, you know. Unfortunately, it's really hard to hire for this position. Like I was telling you, like like they were already hired. Like when I came in, like they were already having trouble to hire someone for this position because like finding someone that has that track record of like managing other big accounts, it's like it's just relatively rare and it's hard to hire
Yeah,
for.
they usually work for like the agency, and you have to hire an agency. It's hard to find that singular person that can be that utility person and grow that account.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. So we did end up finding someone during that trial period, but like I did want to give them like as long as possible. So I think I stayed
You
on.
didn't.
We didn't
You
find
didn't
someone,
find
and
someone.
they
Okay.
still haven't found someone. It's been like over a year. You know, it's just crazy. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, all right. So, did you have to get a reference from anyone, like from Noah, or he just trusted you enough to, with what you were able to do with his account, or did you have to say like, yeah, like so and so at Impact Theory can vouch for me? Did you need any of that?
No, no, no.
No. Damn. Yo, metrics go a lot of metrics
No,
go far,
it
man.
definitely does. Yeah.
Wow, that's
I think
a strong
metric. It's not
takeaway.
only, but like, let's say I didn't have the experience. Like, I think just the work you show, you know, of like, hey, like
Yeah.
here are the posts that I would be posting like on your account, right? I think like just like being able to, and also like the trial period, you know, like the 2 weeks, like let me work for you for free, you know, like just like that. Just those are ways to kind of. I think they're way more powerful than references, where it's like someone that
Yeah.
like references are to me ridiculous. Where it's like you're asking the candidate to give you to give you a like the phone number of someone, like one of their friends that like really appreciates you, to like tell them how they're at work. You know,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't make sense. I don't know.
Okay. So you start working for Noah and you're working remote.
Yeah, and honestly, that it's the job was, it fit all of the criterias of like what I wanted, right? Which is why I like I jumped ship like so fast. It was like I can work from anywhere, you know, like which means I can work from home, which mean, and it's like I mean it's aligned with my skill set, you know, and what I was telling you the other day is like what was funny is I got hired for social media, but like the first week of working there, we basically decided to focus on YouTube only, which I had which I had like almost no experience with. But
So
that turned out
yeah.
to be amazing, just because like
He's,
it's a platform.
he's
What's that?
yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna
I'm
say
cutting you off.
it's a platform that I hadn't worked with, so it's like a new area of growth. And I mean, I found that it's like just like a fascinating platform. It's just so much fun. It's like there's so much more complexity to it than the other platforms, and yeah, it's been a blast.
So what is the official title? That you,
Now the title is producer. I'm the producer for his YouTube channel.
and we talked a lot about working with Tom. I'm curious what it's like. What have you learned? What have you learned? You know, you're making content on the side right now. What have you learned from working with Noah that you could apply to your own content?
Yeah, so many things, man. I think there's a couple that come to mind for the podcast specifically. Like one huge lesson that I learned from Noah is similar to what I was just saying of like him just like getting started. It's like if you have an idea that like you're really excited about, like just get started and like start putting stuff out without it being perfect, you know? And then the key is like keep going. Like consistency. It's another thing from working with Noah, but also like looking at other YouTube channels that have succeeded. You know, it's just like people that consistently put out stuff like content like every week for like 2-3 years. It's almost like impossible for them to fail, you know? And it's like I think a lot of the times, I mean, for me, I've started so many projects that just like stopped after like a month or two, just either because I got bored with it or because I got like probably discouraged. Like a lot of times I think what happens when you start a project is like you start like encountering like some friction, you know, and like some stuff is it's getting a little harder, you know, and like you're not seeing the fruits of the project, like you're not reaping the fruits of the projects right away, right? And so you just like start making excuses as far as like, hey, like I'm just not excited about this anymore. This is kind of like a dip, you know? Like you're a big fan of Seth Godin, right? Like that's a huge, like the dip is a fascinating concept. But but yeah, I think so. So the Noah has this thing, the law of 100, which is like whatever you start, like just put 100 of that out until you like quit, until you stop. And so yeah, that's a big thing. Another big thing is like we were talking about as well is like building a team around what you're doing. Like the reality is like you only have so much time to allocate to projects like outside of work, even like if you have if you're not working around the clock. And I mean that's something that I'm doing with this podcast, right? Where it's like I'm working with an awesome editor, who's helping me like edit it for YouTube and audio, which is allowing me to focus on the things that I'm interested in, which is like reaching out, like with my strengths, I guess, which is like reaching out to people, like trying to find new guests and then doing the interviews themselves. And so like I feel like I've implemented some of that as well.
Okay, so this interview has gone on. It's been a long interview, and I've enjoyed it. We talked about your experience working with Tom, with Noah. I do want to ask this question. If someone is out there right now and they're in a situation, maybe college, maybe they're at a job that they don't love, but they got their eye on something and it feels unattainable. They got their eye on working with someone, some creator, some brand. What would you tell them?
That's a great question. So first of all, I'd tell them that nothing is impossible. Like they 100% can work with that person. And maybe it's not that person because there is such a thing as like what I was saying before, like the opportunity gap, like for me, like when I noticed Tom, it was like he was starting a new company. So he was more approachable and it was like the perfect time to reach out, a lot of the people like, so I think I was thinking of kind of like a game plan of like what that could look like. I think you should come up with like a list of like 5 to 10 people that you really would be inspired to work with. And then like try to like start stalking them, not as far as like reaching out, but like start following them like on every platform they're putting content out. So like if it's Instagram, because that will kind of give you a view of like what they care about and like what they're up to, So like figure out what's important to them right now and like where are they at, So an example is like Elon Musk is probably not going to be the right person to reach out to right now. But let's say he starts like yet another company. Like I think like one of his latest
timing,
like one of his latest company is like Neuralink, right? But like I think that now that team is built up to like 50, 100 people, right? Let's say he starts yet like the Boring Company. Let's say he starts that, Like how can you position yourself to add value in that position, And it's not always going to be the right timing. So like look at that list of 10 people and look at who is just starting a new project that they're excited about that you can help. And it could be like not even it can be like a side project they're working on, like a nonprofit they're helping with or something, Who on that list can you add value right now? Like who's in the position that they need help and like you can provide that for free, Piece 2 to that strategy is now that there's an opportunity, how do you catch their attention? So it can be something like the website resume that I put together. It can be running ads like we were talking about before to target like something. It has to be something specific. You can copy these methods or come up with your own, but like what's going to resonate most with the person you're trying to work with, So put together that lead magnet that's going to put you aside, like that's going to make you stand out. And then, get it in their hands. That's kind of like the easiest part, right?
And can I add something to that as you're saying that? I think part of that can be sort of what you did with Tom's team. I don't know if you asked this outright, but you kind of just said, what do they need right now and start doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't wait. If you, like you said, if you start following them on social media, I'd say unfollow everyone that isn't part of your goal.
Yeah.
Right. Because if every time you go online and it's like people that are like similar or like you'll get a sense of that industry, the goals, like what their taste and style is, right? So then you're learning it. It's becoming part of you. You're like, all right, I know their vision, and they'll be explicit about like where they want to go and where they want to take this company. Then you can take your skill sets, like what you can bring to the table, and just start working for them before they tell you that you're working for them. So whether it's making a video or design their new YouTube banner. If you're a designer, make a new logo for them. Just make something that they will actually use.
I love what you said about like pretend that you're already working for them. Like pretend you're an employee there and just like start clocking in. No, seriously, like 9 a.m., like start working. Okay, how can I add value to this business? And do that for like a couple weeks. And like it's almost like if there is an opportunity that you can help with, like there's no way you're not going to get in the door.
Yeah, and the worst case, maybe the timing isn't right, but you still understand the lay of the land now, and maybe there's another company or personality that wants that same thing that you're able to provide now, and you have a case study.
Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to add that I didn't mention is that a lot of the times these people are kind of hard to reach, like even with all the beauty of technology and like Instagram DMs and all that stuff. And so a lot of the times you probably will have to go through like what they call like the gatekeepers, right? The people that are working with them, aside from them, that have basically direct communication with that person. Go and reach out to them and try to add value to them, you know? And I think that a lot of the time is going to be
build that trust.
Yeah, that's going to be your kind of your door in.
What is your Instagram? Let's say it.
At Jeremy John Mary.
At Jeremy John Mary. DM him and say, hey, I want to work for such and such. What's the first thing I should do?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Very clearly. And if he doesn't know the answer, hit me up at bonus footage. Yo, man, this is amazing. Anything else you want to share?
No, I think that's it. I really appreciate you doing this, man. You're an amazing interviewer. I think listening to this episode, I'll have a lot of notes to take.
Yeah. I'm excited to see this interview. I think I'm a good interview when I really am interested in the story myself. So I think what you've done is a great example. It's again, we were talking about Tom. Tom was able to show you what's possible, right? I think you, by sharing this and creating these interviews in this platform, you're showing people what's possible, so they don't always have to like feel like they have to go the traditional route. You know, a college degree, a certain traditional like paths. It's not 100%. You know, it doesn't just mean that you're gonna like set up. You got to go out and you got to get these things. And you're an example that, you know, if you want to do something, you can go out and you can do it. So thank you for sharing your story on your own podcast, and thank you for letting me interview you here as well.
All right, man. Thanks. And I will be interviewing you. I think we agreed next week, right?
Yeah. Oh, darn. You got to interview me now. All right, cool. I'm with it.
Tom has a fascinating story. So stay tuned, guys. There you have it. I hope you got something out of this interview. I'm really trying to make this as valuable as possible to you. So if you have any feedback on how I can make this better, or if you have any questions for me personally, I'll get back to you. Reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is @JeremyJohnMary. You can also comment if you're watching on YouTube. You can just comment below. All right, thanks for listening and have an epic week.